Why is there so much debate over the question of whether churches should use gospel or CCM, commonly known as contemporary Christian music, in their worship services? And why are musicians always in an uproar about this? As I'm recording this video, there is yet another podcast episode that is out where people are really debating whether or not one or the other genre has been put out too much or has too much authority, too much marketing. And I just want to get to what do musicians think about this? So we're bringing back one of our top 10 episodes, a talk with an amazing music minister and thinker who has really thought through this because he's dealing with this every single week as a church musician. Our friend Levell Hawkins was on the show a few years back. And so I wanted to go back to this conversation because, as you can see, it doesn't matter how many years go by, this conversation keeps coming up. So I really hope that this conversation is going to reignite some thoughts on how you can approach this debate with more clarity, more wisdom, and most importantly, with a spiritual perspective that honors God as you worship in your church. Here, once again, is our conversation with Levell Hawkins. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure to have a fellow musician, a fellow worship leader, and director at his church. But more importantly, I can tell that he's a man of principle. He's a man that's going to dig into some topics here that have been kind of tricky for us musicians that do both work in outside and inside of the church. So, Levell Hawkins, welcome to the God and Gig Show. How are you, sir?
I am great, man. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm great. We are both part of John Mike's Musicpreneurs Facebook group. I wanted to shout out John Mike, first of all, for even making this connection possible.
Spiritual father.
He's spiritual, right? Isn't it a musical father, father, godfather? I don't know. Call it, give him all the father. And it's Father's Day. You know what? This works out really perfectly.
Are you a dad?
Yes, I am, sir.
Man, happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you. And I just heard my wife listening to to some TikTok or something about talking about how Father's Day is the worst holiday, that we don't even get sales. They don't even do sales for us, sir. There's Mother's Day sales, there's Memorial Day sales, there's Veterans Day sales, Father's Day. They don't even mention it. It's like, maybe he'll get a tie or something. But I appreciate you being on the show. How many do you have? How many kids do you have?
2. I have a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old.
God bless you, sir.
All girls.
Girl dad. All right.
Girls.
Oh, so you're outnumbered on top of that.
Outnumbered. I'm here by myself. All by my lonesome, man.
But I'm sure your wife is again, I'm sure having the daughters, having the wife, having all the beauty around you, being a dad. I mean, it's got to be fulfilling for you, and like more important than church, more important than creative stuff. That's got to be the most fulfilling thing for you, I'm guessing, in your life.
Oh, definitely, man. So they're my biggest why for a lot of my grind, man. They motivate me good enough.
Good enough. I love it. All right. Well, for those who are just learning about you for the first time, I always try to get people to, kind of understand who you are, but I know it's hard to tell the entire life story. So if you had the 30-second elevator pitch, like someone sits down with you, like, okay, so tell me who you really are. Like, what would you give them like in that first minute or so, just to tell them like what you're all about and something about, your career?
Oh, man, I'm simple. I'm Levell Hawkins. I'm a preacher. I am a dad, a musician. I love people. You can call me somewhat of a philanthropist if you want to, but I'm more like just a, Swiss Army knife of just goodness, trying to spread it to over the whole world. That's it.
Love that. You know what? I have to take a catalog of these introductions. That my guests are amazing with Swiss Army knife of goodness. Man, okay. I remember.
You got to give something to kind of make you think a little bit, like, oh, okay.
But it's both. It's mission and marketing, sir. You just nailed down two things: the goodness and the fact that, hey, you're a Swiss Army knife. You can handle a lot of different things musically and ministry. So I love this. So tell me kind of just the backstory. I know a lot of us musicians, we have our either musical families or we grew up on a church pew. Like, what was your first introduction to this whole world of like music and ministry and performing?
Well, so music ministry for me started young. So I come from a missionary Baptist family. Grandpa was a Sunday school superintendent. Grandma was a Sunday school teacher. So with their structure, we started off singing in youth choirs and stuff like that. Eventually, my grandparents got tired of us being at home all summer. So it was like, you know what? Y'all are going to piano lessons one summer. And then that started it from there, man, from singing in youth choirs. Eventually, my family eventually moved out here to Texas right after Hurricane Katrina. And one day I sat down at a piano at the church we were visiting, was just playing around with something my music teacher had shown me. It was Emmanuel, Norman Hutchinson's Emmanuel.
Come
It
on.
was the first song I ever learned how to play, the first church song. So I was just playing it after service, and the musician came and was like, "Man, you need to come play for youth." And then before you knew it, I became known for, like, I want to say, like a good 2 years of being the musician in the city that just knew Emmanuel. That's the Emmanuel.
That was your calling
That was
card.
my calling card.
If your choir's doing Emmanuel, I know who to call. I know.
Right. It's like when you see Levell over here, this little 14-year-old, 15-year-old, when you see him, you know somebody's singing Emmanuel. And from there, man, I just kind of grew into the culture, man. Found some younger musicians, or some peers that were musicians, and kind of hung around that, got introduced to shed sessions. And I developed my passion for music from there. I did marching band when I was in middle school as a percussionist. So I was like, okay, got drums, and then now I got keys. But I fell in love with keys when we moved to Texas, since marching band in the city that I was in was more core style. Wasn't used to it. I'm from New Orleans, so wasn't used to core style marching whatsoever. I was always used to straight show style. So the whole high pitched snare thing wasn't really working for me. The harness, the playing with single hands, I wasn't doing it. So I stuck with music and got into sports. And before you knew it, man, it just became a thing for me that I loved. Went to college, got my degree for it, got 2 degrees out of it, 2 associates, one in performance on piano and another one in sound engineering. And I just eventually made the decision that music was going to be my life. It's what made sense. So
Wow, I love that story, and I'm a fellow band geek as well. So I thought I was going to be a music teacher in band for years until I realized it's hot out there. It's hot in these uniforms. It is hot. They're teaching these kids all day long. So I love the fact that you just kind of talked about, number one, how you came into music through the youth choir. So many of us were that first musician that, hey, my mom was a musician at my church as well, my old church back in Pensacola, Florida. Same thing. She's like, I don't play these gospel songs. You're going to have to learn them. I don't know this John B. Key and Kurt Franklin. I'm not learning all this. You're going to learn it. So
yeah.
that need, I love how this kind of pivots, because the reason I asked you to actually come on in the musicpreneur community, and I was kind of talking about this whole debate about gospel and CCM, is because I wanted to make sure I heard straight from people who live this life every Sunday, who have had to serve, sing, play, choirs, everything, right? So, my platform is basically for both those who sing and play outside and inside a church. But it kind of, to me, goes very much into the same thing as like people who say, well, I like the old school R&B, or I like new school, right? Old school, new school. Like,
Right.
it's always this divide in churches and in the life. That's why I like to say it's not just church.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their preference when it comes to music. So tell me, like, what was your first exposure to, maybe, obviously it sounds like you grew up with gospel, but what was your exposure to like this new kind of, oh, there's a different sound. These churches do this, but these churches do this. Like, when did that start to enter into like your view of something that you had to kind of like navigate?
I would say, man, I think that kind of happened early on, in my performing days, because at the time we were still navigating the whole, traditional choir music, the hymn stuff, because like I came from a small city, so Silsbee, Texas is very small. You either know hymns or old school traditional niche songs like John P. Key stuff, the big Timothy Wright fans, huge Walter Hawkins fans. Everybody wants to know if I'm a Hawkins, related to Walter and stuff like that. So, and then we also had the presence of styles like Kurt Franklin coming up, and then your other, music aggregates that were bringing different styles into church. And we had to deal with a lot of old school minds that were just like, hey, we're not doing that new school stuff. We don't want none of that. And then eventually I myself got tired of it, because everybody wanted to hear the young pianist play Brighter Day or Hosanna or Tupac, I Ain't Mad at You, and stuff like that. Everybody wanted to know this stuff. So it was just like, all right, okay. At some point, man, it was just like, okay, eventually we got to find some middle ground for me. And me, I've always been a sponge for musical styles, because I've always wanted to take whatever I'm passionate about and expand it as far as I can take it. So for me, I've always just stayed neutral and said, okay, well, look, let's learn it all, because I got dreams to pursue the world in music. So if that's the case, I can't just do small town. Can't do.
Yeah, I love it, and the fact that I love the fact that you started with that whole hymns versus new school gospel, right? I mean, that every single, you mentioned the Hawkins, like every single genre of gospel, was a genre in Christian music, which is a church, right? Always has that backlash of y'all taking the church to to Hades. Like, you just, we're all going to hell and having handbasket once you play this beat, once you play this particular chord. I love reminding people of the history part of Thomas Dorsey and Mahalia Jackson. They thought that stuff was sinful. when Thomas Dorsey started mixing in the blues and mixing in stuff too, like they thought Thomas Dorsey, who now is our old school, right? He's like the father of gospel. And then like you mentioned John P. Keys and stuff like that. Now, again, we were kids, I mean, I think we're around the same, I'm in my 40s. So right around we were coming to those young choir, yeah, it was Kirk, it was all these guys, and it was like there was a new school, a new wave of gospel, and the choirs were big, but then you had Mississippi and Georgia and all these other choirs are like, nah, we ain't doing all that dancing. So there's always this divide. So I'll tell a story real quick, and I want you to harp in on how this happened to you. My big kind of shift was when Israel started getting big, right? When Israel got big, it was like, oh boy, there is some kind of shift going where between the choir music and then the praise team thing, and then Israel, you are good. We're doing you are good as a throwback this Sunday, as a matter of fact. Like that's a throwback for us. Now, this is 25 years old. So, but when Israel hit, it was like, oh my gosh, like there's this crossover, right? There's this crossover. And then of course you had the hill songs and all this other kind of stuff. And so people were singing these songs, but in our style, gospel style, adding our stuff, adding kind of flavor to it, but still singing the words from other ministries. So I got to ask, like, you just said you're very balanced. Have you ever had anyone come at you in your ministry, in music, saying, that's not real? This is not real gospel. It's not real. Blah, blah. Have you ever had to deal with that in people come to you and say, kind of question whether or not this stuff should be a part of your ministry?
Man, 16 years in, I have dealt with that a lot. So for me, it started at home because I come from, like I said, I have my grandparents that practically helped raise me and my siblings, along with my mom and them. But for them, they always shepherded over kind of watched over my musical evolution. So for them, it was always, you got to learn the hymns, get the hymn book, learn how to read your sheet music. Stop trying to worry about how to play all this other stuff. You got to learn the hymns. I wish we would just all just go back to the hymns. And at first, I mean, I was younger. So, I mean, you're talking, I'm a teenager. So I'm like, I don't want to learn hymns because we got Hezekiah stuff is big. Israel stuff is big. And I kind of had, I guess what you can call kind of like this big grand awakening coming out of the Baptist scene, going into now more Pentecostal scenes, getting around Church of God in Christ, getting into now non-denominational world. And I'm just like, okay, there's more to this than just Baptist stuff. All right. There's praise teams. They don't just have choirs. They got like an elite group of people singing, and it almost looks like what it looks like on TV. And the whole time I'm evolving as this musician. Eventually, I actually ended up leaving the church that I was at with my grandparents and migrating to a non-denominational church. And then my world had just blown up. But at home, paid for it, man. It was like, y'all doing all this stuff. Y'all over here playing the devil's music. Y'all sound like the world and all of this. And I'm just like, I can't just play Georgia Mass and Kurt Franklin, even though he used to be the director for it. Just make it make sense. Like, so I mean, I even get that now being the minister of music at our church in Port Arthur, because Port Arthur is big on, and no shade to them whatsoever, but they're big on quartet, big quartet culture out there. Like they love quartet music. They swear by it. Old choir music and quartet music, and the bulk of our membership is still elderly for the most part. And they're in the ministry itself is transitioning from kind of a traditional type of sense, and the pastor's trying to shepherd them into more contemporary. So that's where I come in. So as a minister of music, I'm like, I'm having the challenge of balancing, keeping, some of the respectfully older saints satisfied, but at the same time ushering in and introducing them to this evolution that's been rebelled against for now a good 30 years. So now we do a mix of, I think right now we're working on He'll Bring You Out by Walter Hawkins, but last week we did JJ Hairston's what is that? God is great and greatly to be praised, that joint. And then the month before that, we did something else old school. So I'm in constant rotation with it, but I get texts all the time. Like nowadays, our praise team is doing a lot of like YLC's arrangements of old songs and stuff like that they add new flavors to, and they're just like, hey, can't we just do some old school stuff? I think I got like 16 text messages recently because I found a different arrangement of Down at the Cross that they did not like because it did not sound traditional whatsoever, man. So I get it all the time.
Okay, so I feel like I almost feel like it's a counseling session at this point, because those of you who are listening right now, if you are in any kind of situation where you are in that generation gap, right? Because this is really generational right now.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of it's about the whole gospel CCM thing about more cultural, right? So there's a lot of that in terms of, oh, well, this is the way that we play, right? This is the way that we grew up with good, with spirituals and gospel and being very musically, not diverse, that's the wrong word, but and I don't want to come complicated. Like it's really hard to describe it, right? But there is a certain level of here's how gospel really makes you feel because you hear it a certain way, right? Those people who are texting you, they felt something when they heard something. Meanwhile, I'll give an opposite idea of I grew up really as a musician. A lot of people don't know this because oh, you were in a Baptist church for a long time. I'm now in a non-denominational church as well. But growing up, I heard a lot of Paul Simon, a lot of James Taylor, a lot of Police, Sting. Like my background was very much pop, very, very much pop. So when I hear CCM, I hear echoes of what I grew up with as well. So it's not like, oh, well, everybody should be, because, not everybody's musical history is the same. And what got you saved, right, is the song you think that everybody listens to when they got saved. I didn't get saved listening to Down at the Cross. Like that was not, I remember going to a couple of intergenerational, multicultural youth events, right? So I remember crying to songs like, where it was like Chris Tomlin, right? It was like that was my come to Jesus moment, you know, uh, 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 undescribable, uncontainable, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's like, oh, maybe my idea of what makes music and what makes God's sound right, maybe it's not for everybody. So what would you say to somebody that like, is on the opposite side? They're like, man, I'm the young person at your church. Like, what do you say to them that they want to hear a blend and they feel like they're stuck? So how do you help those people?
I actually am. I'm courageous enough to use the word diversity, especially in a almost kind of niched kind of situation or a niched culture when it comes to church. I will always advocate for diversity because what
Okay.
we learn is that I mean, if we're practical about it, I'll always tell somebody, hey, try not to as long as you have a desire to develop and evolve, try not to box yourself in too quickly because you never know what's going to reach you. You never know what you're going to find that's going to be your thing yet, especially if you're still discovering, you're still looking, especially when we start talking about ministry, because now we're talking about a soul now searching for some kind of connection with God. And you really can never tell what it's actually going to be. I mean, we can try to nuance, people's past and stuff like that. You can try to nuance, family's history and what the traditional culture is and stuff like that. But we never really know what's going to reach somebody if we don't just keep ourselves open to discover new things. So for the young people, I'd more so teach, man, let's introduce you to as much, remain open.
Yeah.
Let's introduce you to as much as we can. And then you get to choose from there what you connect with the most as an individual. Because I never want to rob anybody from their individuality. You still have the freedom to choose whatever you want to. And with your ears, it's the exact same way. You never know what your ears are going to like. You never know if you're going to like it, hate it, love it, fall in love with it, make a career out of it. You never know what you're going to do with it. So at least just give yourself the opportunity or give yourself the chance to at least try something different. Expose yourself to some stuff. Go discover some stuff because it's a big world out there. I mean, Texas is a big state, but it's the biggest state in the United States. So
Right.
there's so many different diverse cultures, especially within Christendom, that are out there. So many different expressions of Christianity, especially in worship music out there in the world. Boxing yourself in only just it just keeps you limited. Whenever your reach is as a young person, you come out into the regular world saying, okay, well, the sky is the limit. That's the rhetoric us as adults are going to teach kids. I'm going to tell somebody that's young, man, listen, if we're telling you that the sky is the limit and that there's a big world out there, I'm not going to rob you from that when it comes to music either. Listen, there's not just choir music. There's not just hymns. There's not just gospel flavor music. There's not just CCM music. There's so many different cultures of music out there. Expose yourself to it, man. Discover it as you're searching for God. And whenever you make that connection, you'll know it. Make it solid, man, and keep yourself wide open.
Oh gosh. See, now why can't that be the hashtag? Keep yourself open. Keep like it's I feel like there's almost and the verse that popped into my head was Paul talking about I will win all people by being a little bit of everything, right? I will be something of all things. I'm butchering the phrase.
All things to all men.
All
Yeah.
men, yeah, I might be win some, right? So the idea that I think I'm going to go to the musicians now, and this is why I'm going to hang my, kind of point the finger at the musicians a little bit. We all know, you and I, having been trained, you've gone to school, I've gone to school. You've obviously, it's not just the training in school, but it's also the training of hard knocks and being on the church pew and learning all this music every Sunday, which makes us the most diverse musicians in the world because we have so many styles thrown at us every week. Like I can name Broadway, I can name pop, I can name any other. There's no type of musician that gets thrown more styles more frequently than a gospel or a church musician. Like every single week, you're doing Latin, you're doing rock, you're doing gospel, you're doing R&B. If you think you're going to be able to box yourself into just a style, you're not going to last very long. Pretty much anybody's church, even if your church is pretty much, even if your church is very traditional, you still have to have some flexibility, right? And be able to pick up keys and pick another whole thing. So my question is to the musicians that are kind of fostering this debate, because it's not coming, I don't think it's coming from the pews. I don't think so. I'm not hearing a lot of people in the pews say, y'all play too much CCM. Y'all do go. I hear a lot of musicians arguing with other musicians about why this music is too simple or why these chords. And it's like, maybe it's something that you got an issue with. maybe because you're like, well, I wrote this really cool song and nobody bought it. Meanwhile, this song got 4 chords and everybody buys it. Maybe that has more to do. I'm just I'm riffing here. You can see where I'm going though, right? Yeah. Like, do you think some of our musician friends are a little bit salty, not because it's really about the ministry, but more because their preference didn't get picked?
Man, oh, good God.
I'm just saying, you gotta.
I mean, we might as well talk about it, right?
Oh, yeah, and we're talking to our people. So, hey, I'll protect you. Don't worry.
Nah, you're good. You're good. I ain't afraid.
Any hate mail comes up, I'll send it.
Oh, no. Nah, send it directly to me. I'm good. Get your hate mail straight to me. So here's my thing. So that's an act of frustration, right? And I get it as a creative who's put out a single myself. I did a country single though, so it wasn't like I had to deal with gospel. But it was more of a creative thing. But I'd realized after working with so many artists that I've been able to work with, I've seen artists get really, really frustrated because they find themselves like in this like, man, everything we're doing is sick. We got all the chord changes, we got all the runs going on, we got the drums doing whatever, bass is all over the place, vocals is doing all the acrobatics, all the stuff that's hot, you know what I'm saying, inside the gospel culture. But then they find out that, oh, how in the world does Maverick City Music come in with this like so simple but effective kind of approach? And it's like, all right, I don't know what to do. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's for me, I would always just say, man, listen, don't be frustrated with it. Just embrace it. Because at the end of the day, if you embrace it, it's going to diversify you. It's going to, the more flexible you are, the more opportunities you give yourself to be successful. I mean, I found myself even in college learning secular. So my degree is in commercial music. That was the name of the degree. So we learned all kinds of different styles, rock, all the gig ready type stuff. So rock, pop, blues, all of the, you know what I'm saying, the club gig type stuff that we learned. So I ended up having my own personal frustrations with the sets because I come from church and I'm like, man, I'm ready to kill. I'm thinking we finna go through, I'm finna play all kind of runs and stuff, play like I play in church. And then here comes my Caucasian director in college and says, hey man, play this song again. I think we were playing a Temptation song. And he was like, play it one more time. And I think the chord was it was a 1 chord, it was a C major. And I kept playing a C sus2. I could not break that C sus2 to save my life. And he was just like, why can't you just play the simple chord? Because sometimes, and often more times than not, you being able just to play that simple chord will put more money in your pocket than you trying to do it how you know it. And that changed everything for me when it came to playing. I just said, you know what? Maybe I am a little too strong-headed about my own specific preference and understanding, man, that I don't know everything yet. And also understanding that the more I open myself up, the more flexible I am to learn different styles, man, the more marketable I am, the more useful I am, the more people will want to use me. So I don't mess around and find my frustration as a musician, trying to find musicals to go play for, trying to go find more churches to go play for, trying to find more gigs, more income opportunities, because I'm not boxed into a style, nor am I boxed into a playing ability, which is something I also realized is that niching myself to one style limited my ability to really grow as a musician, period. So I can't really just kill the way I want to kill because I'm only trying to kill like one group of people are doing. Yeah. And if I want to do something different and get better, I can't just do everything that Glenn Gibson is doing. He's a beast. Niche myself to that. Then, I mean, we got the other side of it, right? What we got in the United States. This is, I think, specific to the United States. We got East Coast style. We've got West Coast style. And then we got Chicago has their own style. Texas has their own style. Everybody's so niche to, well, I want this style. I want this style. This style is the only good style. This style is the only good style. And boxing ourselves into that only just it limits all of us all together. And it's what caters towards the frustration because we're not willing to let go of our own preferences, let go of our own choices sometimes just to try something different. So I mean, yeah, we get thrown different styles in church all the time, and trying to reject them only limits your reach. And then if you start going into artistry and start trying to get into the industry, I mean, that only limits you even further because what artist is going to return to somebody that's trying to do something different that can only produce one thing?
That's
Doesn't help you much.
yeah. No, that's so key right there. You just mentioned about the artists that don't. I would say that I think all the artists we respect have evolved. None of them have stuck. Like my patron saint, I call him my patron saint of music, is Quincy Jones, because Quincy Jones went from from Thriller and Bad, and then you look back and he was doing the Ray Charles writing, and he was the producer of It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to. I'm like, I mean, like that discography is unbelievable, and that's a just immediately. I love what you said about the church thing about being stuck, but I was in the jazz school and feeling stuck because they kept wanting me to play a certain style. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm not going to be the bop player. I'm not going to be the person that does all the runs in that form, right? So whatever genre you're in, there's this is the only way to do it, people. Like you said, like East Coast or West Coast or whatever. I really do wonder again. I think that maybe this debate is coming down to more cultural and just people that want to feel like they're carrying the banner for something. And so, like, if you can't find a side, you make a side. It's like we weren't arguing about this 10 months ago, but now let's fight about this. Like, so we got to pick a side. And like, no, like I feel number one, what you said about the different is so you said it so well about oh well you were playing all these things and then a group like Maverick, and again you can see even now we're recording this in June, Maverick and Kirk, that alliance has come together, and it's like yeah, we see where those kids, I mean, kids in Maverick, I say kids because I'm, like I said, I'm approaching 50. Guys at your age, are the guys in Maverick and the ladies in Maverick. And they grew up to all of this stuff. They grew up with Kirk, and they grew up with the Lakewood and the Hillsong being their soundtrack, right? So they're also right in the middle of it. Like they're probably thinking the same thing. Like, why do we have to choose?
Right.
And so I do think a lot of this is fueled by musicians. I want to ask you though, with your site, your writing, your artistic like goals, what do you see as your like, are you borrowing from a lot of different sounds for your sound? You mentioned you did a country song. Like, it sounds like you're eclectic in terms of what you're trying to do personally. So, what are you trying to do outside of just your four walls ministry to kind of continue to expand your sound and your artistry?
My focus, man, is marketability and effectiveness. That is my focus. So the reason I did the country song was like, I mean, I was going through some stuff back in 2020. And I mean, I was like, okay, well, I got these songwriting chops. I hear a lot of different things and I have a lot of different creative ideas. And I was like, I hate country music.
Wait,
I really do.
All right. We started with I wrote a country song, and then later you said I hate country. Okay.
I literally
Discuss.
niched myself into saying, man, I have always hated country music. So growing up in New Orleans, right, we've always made fun of anything that sounds country. It was just a big thing because we have this mindset that is like, okay, I think it's the same thing in New York, where it's like when you hear any kind of Southern twang, period, and accents, you're just like, ew, that's country. You think horses, carriages.
How can New Orleans talk about twangs and
That's how we live. So growing up, we messed around. We used to make fun of people with that. And so I ended up hating country music because I just thought it was just so archaic, so old school, so like left in time somewhere. And before I knew it, I came out of college with so many different, with such a diverse palette for music that eventually I shut it down and said, man, you know what? Well, if that's what's going to make you marketable, if that can make you successful, which is you being able to maneuver or navigate different genres of music, different styles of music, then do it. And then next thing you know, I wrote a country song and I was like, I had to go back and tell all my friends, like, hey, y'all won't believe what I just wrote. I literally just sat here and wrote a country song. And while I was doing it, I was just like, every piece of it, I was just like, okay. I put the fake accent on the track and everything, me singing it, and I'm writing it, and I'm like, I started composing. I was like, I want it to be simple, but I want it to be gospel. And I'm like, you know what, Vale, this is a great challenge for you because now you're producing a style that you're not familiar with. So it forced me to go study a country artist, it forced me to do what I love doing, which is studying different styles of music so I can develop my own approach and staying that eclectic or staying that flexible. That way, if I ever get put in a situation, man, I can navigate it in any way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's a church service or a secular gig or it's a studio session. I'd be able to say, well, if I want to be successful, I got to be diverse. I got to be flexible. That's going to affect my income opportunities. That's going to affect my own personal success, and keep it that way.
Man, I'm telling you, look, I have a lot of respect for you, way more than I even want to start. I had a lot of respect when you stepped up to the plate to take on this discussion. Now hearing you say, hey, I'm going to take the thing that I don't even like and use that as fuel and motivation to create something that stretches me, right? That stretches out my ability and stretches me and makes me better as a musician. There's so many. I hope everyone that's listening, creative in any form, musician or artist, thinks about that, like stepping into the thing that you don't do well. So much of practice. I say this about myself. I stole it from somebody. My whole point of practice is sit down and try to do something that I can't do and don't stand up until I can do it. That's it. So many people like to practice or shed and they practice doing what they do well. And it's like, how is that improving? That's like getting in the pool and being like, yeah, you know, I want to be an Olympic swimmer. Let me just stay in the 5 feet. And like, no, you're not going to get better till you go to the deep end and keep doing those laps and keep beat up because you get faster and faster trying stuff that you're not good at. And so I love that. It's such an important point for musicians and artists and anybody to create this area where you get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And I think it goes right back to the genre thing. If you're uncomfortable because you think that these 4 or 5, by the way, let me just say this in my own ministry, people that say CCM is easy clearly have not done an entire service, have not had to use and create the atmosphere that, like you said about that C chord versus the C2. If you can make a C chord triad sound good and play it with touch and play it with feel and play it in the groove, who cares how many other 7s and 9s and 13s and 27s that you didn't play? Like, I mean, man, I just love the 27s. I feel like someone one day is going to come and be like, yeah, you know, I want to, can you play the 23rd? Like,
Just use your elbow.
I think you're trying too hard. I think you're trying too hard to sound like you know music. But that's what I feel. I feel like I've stretched myself by putting myself in not my current ministry where I have learned way more in the last 10 years because I was in the area that, and I wasn't not brought up as a musician in gospel church either. So every time I've come into a space, I've had to relearn as well. And I wasn't comfortable. I'm like, why is this man shouting? And why is this quartet music? How do I do this shout? How do I do that turn? Right. So every time it's being in the seat of the learner. I guess I'm talking, but I'm also asking, and it sounds like what you value most, you said it, is being in the seat of a student. Even when you got to be a leader, you got to also be a student all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I MD services, that's literally, if I get a talkback mic, that's the conversation I'm having with the band, especially if I'm not familiar with the band, but I know they're all beasts. Or if they're not even, you know what I'm saying, at my playing level, I always push, man, listen, guys, I don't know everything. I don't assume to know everything. Every situation is different. So let's be at least accountable to each other to make sure that we give God glory, first of all, in everything that we do. And so let's not be selfish. Listen, let's pay attention to what's going on, man. Let's be dynamic. Whatever comes out, let's just do it great. That's it. I don't care how it comes out, as long as it sounds good, as long as people are moving from it. That's it. We did our job.
Love it, man. This has been a great conversation. I hope that some people have been freed now from these shackles of, oh, you can only pick one style. You got to be on the CCM side or the gospel side or really any side. And I want people to follow you as well because you clearly have a lot to offer. It sounds like not just musically, but in teaching. I hope you're going to be back on this either more podcasts or maybe some of our workshops that we'll be doing in Guiding Gigs. You got a lot to share, sir. So you got to make sure you're not holding back. So tell us how they can follow you, how they can keep up with either your music or your teaching, whatever else you're doing online.
Also, catch me, man. You can catch me on most social media platforms. Facebook, it's Levell Hawkins. Instagram, it's the Levell Hawkins, THE Levell Hawkins, LEVELLHAWKINS. You can catch me on TikTok, just at Levell Hawkins. You can catch me on YouTube too. That channel's still in building, but for the most part, my biggest platforms that I'm focused on right now: Instagram, Facebook, some TikTok.
Awesome. Well, sir, I know it's not going to be the last time. I appreciate you again being a fellow musician, a fellow minister. minister, a fellow worshiper, and just leading by example, man. Just leading by example, doing what you got to do. Again, I'm going to play the old man talking to the young man. I remember when I was 30, and I remember those choir stands, and sometimes you just look like, why am I here? But it's all worth it because you really are serving God by serving those who serve God. And, it's such an amazing, amazing calling. So God bless you. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. And I hope it won't be the last time.
Invite me back, man.
Absolutely will.
I appreciate you, bro, so much.
My friend, thank you for watching this episode. If that blessed you, you got to make sure that you stay connected with this community and this channel so that you can get more where that came from. We're sharing great interviews, tactics, strategies, mindsets, lifestyle choices. Everything is going to help you become a totally confident creator. And don't miss an episode of the God Gig Show. If you are staying connected to our channel, you'll be able to find us anytime we release new episodes. And you can check out some of our archives of almost 200 episodes now that we've shared over the last few years. Make sure you check out one of the suggestions right now because it's probably perfect for you to continue to develop as a creator. And continue to stay connected with us because we're here to help you become the creator that God created you to be. We'll see you in the next episode.